Hey guys, what's going on? It is me, the creator of Green Army here. And in today's video of Green Army Freedom Academy, I've got my next episode, session 3, coming up with Tyreke Morgan.
Nice to meet everyone. I'm excited to be here. What's going on, Narelle?
I'm alright, thank you.
As always, there we go. Yes, sir. So what are we talking about today?
Yeah, we'll be talking about financial, let's say you're struggling financially and you want to get better at it slowly. So we're going to give you some top tips about
saving, budgeting. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. Okay, exciting. I'm ready for it. So So should I give a bit of a brief introduction to what I do and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Not? Yeah, great. Cool. Hi everyone. My name's Tyreke and I literally do quite a lot of things. Let's start off with the biggest thing at the moment. So at the moment I work at the college. I work at Bristol College as a professional development tutor, and I continue to do a lot of kind of work around that area into education, into youth work. I do a bit of youth mentoring and youth work like that, as you know, Laurel. But also do mini projects on the side. So I got a drinks business called Thai Seasonal Sorrel, and I do a charity called the Monster Bash, which is a basketball program for kids. So
yeah, you should check out Monster Bash as well. Really good organization involving basketball.
Yeah. I gotta start saying kids. It's not just kids. It's like young people too, like young people. But I work with mainly the kids at the moment, as in teams, and then we do like tournaments for like 16 to 25-year-olds. So so you know, a lot of stuff. But
be sure to give Monster Bash a follow.
Oh Instagram. That's what we do now, innit? Yeah, the likes and stuff. Listen, I'm an old man when it comes to all this like social media stuff. So is it the likes, the subscribers, whatever the case may be? Do support. All right.
Yeah, of course.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, so talking about, it was really great. You're working at school too. And I'm working at school as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I work in the largest primary school in Bristol now. It's called Bishop Road Primary School. It's just up in Bishopston.
Oh, really?
Huh?
Really? That's the biggest one? I didn't
the largest primary school in Bristol,
I didn't know that. Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So I work there as a catering assistant for Pablum Ltd. And after work, I go to sort of my second job. It's sort of like freelancing, so I do some filming, content creating, filming, editing, and I do that with different orgs, such as I'm the one behind Youth Rise as well, with the comms team as well.
Oh,
Youth
nice.
Rise with BABBASA.
Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So many projects I've been working on, and it's been quite really busy. As you can see, that's why I'm not really up to date with my YouTube stuff, because I'm actually all caught up. But I'm catching up. I'm still there, still smiling.
Listen, that's good. I like that. Yeah, that's just life, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down. But it's all about balance. But cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Me and Tyreke here are going to provide some of the great, amazing tips, some of the great experience and stories that will actually gives you some insights on how you can progress throughout your financial difficulty throughout your life. So, Tyreke, what is it like growing up in your financial experience?
Okay, I like that. I love these type of questions, because it's like something that you don't really talk about with many people. But I'll give kind of a brief history since I started working. I think that'll be an easier point, and then we can backtrack with some other things, right? So, for me, in my kind of as soon as I finished, I think it's sixth form college, I went into an internship which was called BlackRock, well, Big City Bright Futures by Inter University, but it basically got me into working in BlackRock. Now, I've always done stuff around finances, always loved learning about it, like how to save, how to budget. I've been on the lower end of the spectrum when it relates to finances. So yeah, struggling especially when I was younger, didn't have a lot of money. Pretty poor, had a great support network around me. So I knew I was poor, but I didn't know the severity of it. But I knew that, you see some of the gaps in between, comparing other people around me, like friends and family, like I couldn't afford certain things. I had to, struggle with a lot of things, like,
I've been on that space before because when I was really young and I sort of grew up in a family where the income wasn't really that great. I've seen 16, 17, 18-year-olds start working and I was like wondering, when am I going to start work? When am I going to start work? I really want to start work and start buying stuff, start being independent. Yeah. Because when I was in Aruba, 15, 16, 17-year-olds would just work in shops, like let's say McDonald's. And in America, we have like Walmart. Oh, right, in Aruba, they have one of the big marts that's called Price Mart. It's one of the biggest retail shop in Aruba.
Okay, right, nice. Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point because what I was going to mention also, which, comparison is sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's just a reality of like, okay, there's some things like I struggle with, like even basic things like, for example, when people were turning 16, 17, like able to learn how to drive, when you had the ability, I applied for my provisional when I first started, but like, first of all, no one was paying for my driving lessons, family members weren't going to be doing that. And, and it was just a reality that some people could afford, some people not. Some people were actually more forward thinking, I would say, actually to be like, no, I want my kid to learn how to drive. So it was a good thing they prepared for that. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just a reality of, there's certain opportunities I just didn't have financially, but I was quite luckily, given a lot of opportunities from, certain friends, certain family members, great institutions been under, like Inter University, great one, always would recommend, they helped me a lot. So yeah, no, in that journey, I worked at BlackRock, I saw finance, I was in the more said inside the tech field because I kind of knew all the other departments when it becomes to, finances because I did a lot of other internships before that too. But it just opened my eyes to like wealth and the importance of like building wealth at a young age and developing these key skills. And I met some great people there with a similar mindset about like how to make money, how to like save, how to budget, how to get out of your own financial situation. So, that got me onto my first, journey onto developing my financial goals and visions. And, it's helped me ever since, starting this journey. It's been great because I see the progression, not only on my personal life, but of course in my bank account, which is the best part, right? so a lot of that, it does help. But some of the things I would recommend, like initially when I started out, I was looking at all these different like books. I think a typical one was like Robert Kiyosaki, if you heard of him. He has this book called Good Dad, Bad Dad, no, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, something along those lines. I was really more interested in what he was talking about, good debt and bad debt and what debt is and understanding like all those kind of facets. But then I also looked at the other spectrum of other financial advisors or, however you call them. And one that really resonated with me was Dave Ramsey and his team. So you had Dave Ramsey, you had Dr. Deloney, you had Anthony O'Neill, who I still watch today too. But those guys, that group, were amazing because they gave you a good practical steps to actually build that, the actual financial goals to feel more free. Yeah. And it's one of those things where when you have a good financial backing behind you, you have so much options that, you otherwise wouldn't have. Like the idea of paying bill to bill is no longer a fear. The idea of like when emergency happens, you have the money ready. Yeah. And so, all that kind of stuff was really helpful for me. So I followed the steps. I was diligent on it. So I saved up my 1,000. I saved up all my expenses. The next baby step, I saved it up. There's 7 in total. I mean, we could go into it in more detail in the next couple of questions, but I did all of it and I've progressed massively through that. And I'm pretty much on, technically it'll be like 3B, which is about like deposits and stuff, 4, but those are more, the later parts of the baby steps are more habitual stuff. So like saving 15% in retirement, all that stuff, which I do, and then give your wealth, like the money you got left over. You know, you got to do what's in. Again, sometimes, you know, before my financial journey was a bit up and down. So before I was kind of all focused on just the numbers and making sure I stick to the budget. But then when I had a bit more freedom and opened up, like life is, you know, you got to live your life, you got to enjoy it. And, you know, you can't just stick to, you know, the letter of the word per se in terms of like what I was doing, which was his baby steps.
100%.
You know, you got to like have freedom, pockets away to save up to do fun stuff, hang out with friends, you know, socialize. So, you know, I had a nice balance of it, but that just helped me progress into where I am today, where it's all about finding a good balance, knowing when to work hard to get a lot of money and when not to, and to relax and not burn yourself out. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff around that.
And guys, this kind of take me back to session 1, like when I was talking about work and life balance, also financial and life balance. Like it's really important to like keep the balance going by having fun, spending some time financially with your friends, etc. So I'm just reiterating to what I said back then in session 1.
Exactly.
But now we're in session 3 now, which is financial with Tyreke Morgan. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, Laurel, before we get into some of the deeper questions, what was your financial financial life or perspective when you were younger? What was that like? So
when I was really young, I grew up with a very, very lower background family because we live in an island called Aruba. So Aruba was like one of the countries in the Caribbean where we have many, many multi. It's kind of like Bristol, but in a Spanish version. Like we had Spanish people, we had German people, we have American people.
Oh, wow.
So it was really, really diverse. And each people have different perspective. Like in Aruba, it's really often, we grew up in a community where people look at you based on what you have and all of those things. And I used to always feel like it's a competition back then. So when I was really young, I had a very big house and my parents were living in there. It was me, my parents, and my brother came in later. So everyone was looking at us and thinking, we are rich, we have a lot of money, etc., etc. Now, what I need to say is that when someone is rich, when someone is considered rich doesn't mean that you have £1 million in your bank account or $1 million flooring in your bank account. It simply means you're wealthy. Rich is like when you have money, but you know how to use them. There's a difference between rich and poor when it's not about the capacity of the money, but it's about the financial intelligence right there. That's what I look at it. But that's something that I had lacked back then. Like I used to always be sensitive person, used to just try to impress everyone else. So what I started doing, my parents would give me lunch money every time, and then what I would do is take my lunch money and buy something, not just for myself, but for my friends, and we all would eat and get fun. Because sometimes I used to use money for attention. That's the type of perspective I had back there.
Wow. Okay.
But then I actually regretted that later around, because as you get older and people start to look at you, they're just gonna ask for more, and then they don't actually treat you like you're a person. They just run away from you when there comes a conflict. Because I remember when I was in secondary school, there was 2 boys that got in trouble with me, and then one of the students told them off that they were using me financially, eating my money out and all of that. I don't even know who did it, but it just happened. And then they called the 2 boys in the principal office, talk about it, say it's not really good to eat out of someone's lunch money like that. You have to have your own lunch money. So sort of stuff like that the principal had conversations with, and that's when it sort of happened. Like they start getting angry at me because they said I snitched them.
Right.
So it's like really, really challenging. So things sort of like start to flip from there. So then I realized from there, it's not really, sometimes people take advantage of you, but as soon as they get problem, they run away.
Can I ask you a question about that? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Because there is a conflict of when you're perceived to have a lot of money, people do take advantage of you.
Yes.
But also when you are wealthy and you hoard it, you do tend to lose it because you need to start giving. You know, there's a kind of a hierarchy and a structure on the rich are supposed to support the poor people, and the poor people are supposed to see the good habits of the rich people and then actually develop that. But in that situation that you're telling us is like, okay, so the friends that you had at that time were like kind of just using you for your money, and they thought, you were the wealthy friend, so obviously they'll kind of use you. Maybe a bit of jealousy there because obviously they might not have that and you clearly do.
Yeah.
How do you feel moving from where you were to here now? Do you feel richer, poorer? Do you feel like the different countries that you're in at the moment caused your perspective on money a bit differently now, or?
I would say, first of all, I would say yes.
Okay.
But in terms of moving out to Aruba to the UK, my friends in Bristol, my friends in Luton, my friends, they're much mature now, older people. They're much more understandable what it is to be like, to be money. They never come around and ask me, Laurel, do you have £5 that you can lend me, etc., etc. They're not like that. Instead, they rather want to help me than me to help them. That's how I kind of feel it right now.
Okay, that's good. Yeah,
including the young people around Bristol and especially those in BABBASA as well. It kind of feels like that.
Nice, nice. Okay, great.
Yeah, but now I haven't started working until I was 20. So when I came into the UK, I was 19, and I just turned 20 when I came into Bristol. 3 years ago, yeah, and then when I started working, my first ever job was digital marketing with Digital Dancer.
Okay.
So my salary was quite really small back there, but I had to just take it because it's better than nothing, and I started working. The first thing I did was start saving money, and I would just use the money to pay my subscription. So I have this phone bill that I had to pay every month, and I just pay it. Not really expensive, as well as the other bills, like the internet bill for the house to use it, because I used to live in a shared home where my landlady would criticize me because of how many electricity I use, so I would also help her pay electricity bills.
Wow.
So often to keep it. So it wasn't really easy at the start when I started living. And the worst thing is they are called family members.
Alright, is it?
Yeah. I was in Easton that time, but then when I lived in Easton and I had that job, it was a kickstart scheme from Department of Work and Pension, kind of a helpful thing. I got help from my sister-in-law to get that into me. I sort of got help from my sister-in-law, yeah.
Wow, really? Amazing. Yeah. Okay. So leading on from that, I was going to say, it's good. See, this is what I'm saying, like wealth, when you talk about capacity and like wealth, what's the difference between wealth and rich, being rich? Yeah, sure. It is. On one side, I do agree. It's definitely like a balance of the two. So it's the idea of, it's the how you use your money.
Yes.
And it's the way you uses it. For example, just tips that you were mentioning before to give out. Like for example, people using saving accounts, ISAs, investments.
Yeah.
Okay, what are these things? Because like originally, for me, these things were quite big. And I only really knew about savings because that was the most easiest one, and most people that I knew just knew what savings was. But once you combine all these things together, you realize, okay, this is how you build wealth, and this is how you build towards being a richer person. But however, just because you have that money doesn't mean you're going to be using it in the right way. And then obviously, the way how you use money kind of does reflect on the person you are. How you do one thing is how you do all things. So if you're kind of a, let's say a crappy person who struggles with like just personal life, who abuses their money, kind of, make gambles, overly high risk for like nonsensical reasons, then if you got rich, it would just, you would be rich like temporarily, but you wouldn't really build any long-term wealth that could like change a generation. So
100%.
Yeah, exactly. So it's about being careful on how you see these things. But I do have to say, like, I think some people neglect the idea that building wealth isn't easy. Like, I think some people think it's like really easy to do. Well, there are some ways to do it that can be easier than others, but in general, building up your money and make it sustainable, and that doesn't just help you, but helps like family members and your future generation. If you have kids and their kids and everything, is really hard. It's actually a lot of hard work, a lot of diligency, a lot of
responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. Yeah, exactly. All that
really,
kind of stuff. So I think some people neglect that side of being wealthy. And also another thing is sometimes you can be wealthy, but you don't see yourself as rich. Yeah. And I've had that before where I know I'm wealthy now because I got all these things put in place and I'm ready, but I'm definitely not to the point that I would like to be, or I'm not rich enough to be like, I can't just buy like a house and so easily and just like, move in and, buy multiple houses. It's gonna take some time. and it's going to take, it will be like a large pay cut, well, not a pay cut, but you know what I'm saying, like a large payout before I reach that point. And, you know, those decisions aren't something you can just readily, hastily make. You know, you got to take your time and really decide on what that would look like. And you got to be smart with it. Again, it could be like, yeah, sure, I could pay out for this to get a house, but also trying to still keep my investments moving. I can't just put everything in one basket. If that doesn't, you know, work out, what about this? You know, it's all about, you know, finding your checks and balances and knowing what risks you're willing to take and doing your best with that. And then, hey, whatever happens, happens. But as long as you did your best, that's all you can do. And yeah, I say that because, again, I feel like as a society, we, especially like people like me and you and like other friends we know, we put too much pressure on ourselves, like we're not doing enough. And I think we're doing a lot. Comparatively to how other people we know spend their money, reckless, all that kind of stuff, and not building any wealth, not putting that time in, not putting that discipline in. We sometimes go, oh gosh, but I'm not doing anything really. But you're doing great. Like, I know you are doing amazing things, you're saving, you know what you're doing with the finance things. And so for those who are similar to us, I think sometimes you put too much pressure on yourself. So don't worry about it too much. Just focus what you're doing. If you're making all those right steps, you'll get there. It might not be in the time that you kind of initially wanted, but you'll eventually get there. And it's better to get there than not get there at all. So
yeah, of course, 100%. Yeah. So that closes off with our insights of our experience now. So we're just gonna go on, run through a 5-minute break, have fun with the advertisement, and then we're just gonna come back and ask even deeper question. And we're gonna give you on the next line here. We're just gonna go on a deeper question. Then forwardly from there, we're gonna give you some great tips at the end.
Great.
So stay tuned on Grenoble Freedom Academy. We'll be back.
See you in a bit.
See you in a bit. So guys, we're back now. Yeah, it's a great time having you and Tyreke. Yeah, and we're just gonna continue on with the deepest question.
All right.
This is by far one of the deepest questions I would ever ask anyone.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
And this question now is, what's the most difficult thing ever during your financial journey?
Wow, most difficult. That is a hard one. That's so many. Okay, what's difficult? Can I name you a few, and then I kind of build it up in my head, because I just name a couple of things. I think the most difficult thing in my financial journey has been the discipline of sticking to the budget. You know, I think that's one thing that's been really hard, to stick to the budget, but that leads on to something else that I'm thinking about, which is another thing I find really difficult. One of the biggest things I find difficult is not only sticking to the budget, but bringing in more income. I think that's another thing that is really difficult, because no matter how much you budget and slice it whatever way you want to do it, you know, it's still a set amount. So for example, if you get £1,000 a month, right? You could save, sure, like 600 quid if you got all these benefits of like living at home and not paying any bills and all these other things, right? But you're still not going to be saving as much as someone who's earning like two grand, 2.5, 3 grand,
100%.
who sure has more expenses, might be living by themselves, but as long as they're paying for more. So it's the idea of, so what's difficult is not only sticking to the budget, but it's also, because that's a habitual thing, it's just your habits, so that's a really hard thing, and you got to be honest with yourself. I think that's why it's really difficult, because you got to be honest to be like, sometimes you could tie yourself down with a lot of things that are unnecessary, so that's 100%, one thing.
Yeah.
So I find that really hard. Then, like I said, it's the whole idea of getting a lot of, increasing your income is another hard thing, because that means you have to push yourself into other job positions, might be in another job, another career, because the job that you're originally in isn't making you as much money. And this is, I think this is a difficult thing too, because let's say it's a job that you find you're really passionate in, but it's an industry that's not making a lot of money. It's might be that difficult decision where it might not be your full-time thing, it might be a part-time or just a hobby you do. For a time period, might be, but it might be for the rest of your life, I don't know. But it's one of those things where knowing, okay, I can't be doing this all the time. Like, you know, let's give a good example as for a job. Let's say teachers, because teachers are a great example. Sure, you know, depending on what type of teacher and what subject you teach, you know, and all those kind of things, and what school you work in, you can make a livable wage, you know, and survive and all that kind of stuff. But you're not going to be making the same amount of some people working in like finance departments, you know, in like, you know, in the clientele, whatever the case may be. So that's another thing that's really hard. And so you have to supplement that with other jobs or, you know, your investments. Again, it's about how you want to navigate it, but it's a really hard decision. And the third thing I would say that's really difficult in like my financial journey was running a business.
Yeah.
Because I think we were grown in that generation, particularly about don't work a 9 to 5, don't work, you know, be your own boss, get your own money, earn as much as possible, you know, all these kind of things. But I as someone who's done all of these different things, right? And they all have pros and cons, but particularly with the business, it's like there's so much work that goes into a business. It's not just 9 to 5. You're working off the clock. You're thinking about it all these other times, and even when you have breaks, you can't really have breaks because you need to be more sustainable. So
100%.
So yeah, exactly. So these are things. Now, when I say all these things, because you said what's your biggest one, to be honest, it's just a balance of what my financial future is looking like and what I want, because all of these things kind of culminate together to be my biggest financial future. It's this whole idea of balance. Okay, when is it right to get the next job or move up in my, you know, the next position or a new career? You know, when is that going to be? Should I do it now? Is it ready, or am I getting comfortable? Is it that I should start looking at some other places to invest my money? You know, it's all these kind of different questions you've got to ask yourself. You know, is it right for me to run a business? Is it really making me more money? Is it more sustainable for me in the future? It's all these kind of questions you've got to ask, and it's like building up to what my end goal is going to be, and is what my end goal something I'm working towards that is actually going to be something I want and viable. And so these are the things I really struggle with. And then on a technical sense, so that's all I would say my biggest financial you know, burdens at the time, you know, difficult in my journey. But on a technical sense, I think a lot of people I struggled with massively. It's just, what does these terms mean when it comes to investments? Like when someone says invest your money, especially when like I was telling you before, I was in the baby steps, they said invest your money in stocks, and I was stumped for I think almost like a year or two on like, what does that mean? Investing in what? Like, do I go on, you know, people recommended me all these websites like Trade 212, Vanguard, Hargreaves Lansdown, and all these other things. And it was like, pick out your own stocks, and to get the most interest, you gotta like, you know, trade whatever. And it was becoming like, well, what is all these like terms and things? But now it's like, okay, I've decided to take more of a holistic approach, and I automate all my investments. So I just get whatever company that I'm with, like let's say Hargreaves Lansdown, I just say, what's your most adventurous budget that will try to get me the best return, and I'll pick that one and you deal with it. Because for me, I was becoming way more stressful than it had to be. And then I started becoming almost like a trade, a tradesman. Like I was trying to, okay, what stocks buy that, you know? And it was like, that became a job. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to be doing that. That's not for me. And I'm not passionate about it at all. Yeah. So, so all these kind of things, again, it's like the technical knowledge was really difficult. The, running a business, should I run it or not? You know, these are another thing. You know, is it going to make me more money than I would otherwise? And how much work am I putting in? Am I putting too much stress? And the other ones I already stated. But that has been really difficult. What about yourself? Because for me, that those sides of things have been tough.
Yeah, and going back to that, I was saying about starting a business. That's one of the mistakes. Not only you, but that's one of the biggest challenge that someone has ever faced. Not just you alone, but I have some few friends that start running a business straight away, thinking that it will go through, and then it just happens. Like usually when we start a business, it's really good to like be ready with the business to jump through it, because sometimes people go in and start business straight on and they don't have no cards on the table yet, and that's sort of like put it into a bigger struggle where they eventually fail.
And going on with that, I think with businesses, a lot of people don't understand the type of business they want. And so when you don't understand that, you don't know the structure or even the culture it typically breeds. And so then when you don't have those kind of things to fill in the gaps, then you're obviously going to struggle when you get to the bigger stage. And like the gaps that you have at the beginning become more visible and more harder to close once you get bigger.
100%.
You're too closer in, you're too further down into it, so it's going to be hard to actually just come out of it. So business-wise, it's super hard, and it depends on what kind of industry you go into when it comes to business. Now, if you could find a little small niche that is about, you know, a business or an industry that's bubbling up, you know, take full advantage of that. But again, that's really hard. Sometimes a lot of people go in the most saturated markets, especially food and drink, and they expect to be like this rich, you know, person because everyone does it. But you got so much competition that, you know, you get outshined quickly. You might be just the flavor of the week and it just fizzles out. And for me, this is where it becomes really hard because businesses, like for me, I was making a lot of money, then I wasn't, then I was, and I wasn't. It was this up and down, and you had to play, you know, for me, I had to pay my people first. And then, you know, sometimes that was the case, you know, I had to make sure my workers were getting paid, and then I could get paid and all these kind of things. And it's very hard to continue doing that. It was a lot of stress, a lot of meetings you have to go to, and you got to find the right people, and finding the right people again for anything is really hard.
Yeah, definitely. 100%.
So yeah, it's all these things that again adds up, and for me it was all good learning lessons. Like I really needed to learn that, but again, it kind of burst my bubble in a good way in regards to what a business is and how to run one and what it means. Again, I was in that generation when they kept focusing like, be your own boss, don't let anyone control you, blah, 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 blah. But the reality is like when you're a business, you're going to be taking care of employees, and if everyone has that kind of mentality of don't listen to that person or whatever the case may be,
nonchalant and misogynistic, you know.
You know, all that kind of stuff, you go to the point where you're like, okay, well, no one's running anything, and it just becomes this kind of selfish, independent, you know, I could be my own person and not be self-reliant, but we're all reliant on someone in one way or another. So that's what it comes to business. So again, and then like the whole, you know, sometimes you got to fire someone, and that's a really hard thing to do. My temperament is, I'm not actually that fussed, but again, it's kind of it's hard because if you know the person, then it's kind of harder to fire them. But if you don't, it's kind of more easier. But you also, I'm quite compassionate, so it really depends like on the situation. But I would say on that side, I'm quite balanced. But again, it's just for me, it was just the extra arduous paperwork, this extra stuff you got to file in. You know, even stuff like even when you start, like when you open up a business, right?
Yeah.
The whole technicalities. Okay, if you're a limited company, how much money do you earn? How much is this? How much is that? Where do you live? Where do you run the business? All these questions, and when you're first starting out, it becomes too much. It's like, oh, this is too much information. I don't know half of what these things mean. And I started a business when I was really young, so a lot of these words and terminology and responsibility was very intimidating, and no one teaches you that. You know, initially I thought business was just like, okay, I got an idea, like my drinks business, I got an idea, okay, cool, this is a great drinks business, people like it, get in a store, okay, get in a store, and then get in a shop, and that's it. And then I just become rich like that. But there's so much underneath that a lot of people don't tell you or emphasize or give you a fair balance of it. It's just like kind of just short-sighted understanding of it. But yeah.
Now bouncing it back to me, my most difficult bit of the financial journey, I would say the biggest highlight is trying to please other people. Yeah, it's kind of going back like to the first question, what was my financial journey was like, and I've already answered like half of the story already. So most of the time when I have my money, my main subject is to like treat myself well, but sometimes I want to just go over the limit into like, okay, I should spoil my brother a little bit. Because when we just moved into Speedwell, that was roughly 2.5 years ago, my brother started going missing very, very often, all around Bristol, different areas. And I was like, why is he doing that and all of that? Then I have family members from Barton Hill specifically that called my parents and called me and telling him the reason why he's going missing is because we don't respect him, we don't treat him right, we neglect him, we don't buy him anything, and you're taking a lot of advantage on yourself. So I had a family member that lives there that keep telling me, oh, you don't treat your brother good, you don't have your brother's back, etc. So that just pushed my anxiety up into start spending a lot of money on him. So what I start doing, I start taking out credit cards, I start taking out loans, I start taking out overdraft. And the crazy part is I'm still surprised how a guy like me, and a young adult like me to be 23 years old and still have so many credit cards, because I never seen anyone have so many credit cards before.
Well, why do you like for me? First of all, I wouldn't. I'm not in a rush to get a credit card. Why do you have so many?
I just don't know why I have so many, just in case of what can happen in the back. So just for emergency purposes.
Okay, yeah, but like one or two might be good enough. But how many credit cards do you have?
Right now I have 3, 1 small one and 2 big one.
And what is the purpose for each credit card?
That's a good question though. One purpose is for everyday spending, so smaller budgets of 400 within my expenses. So that's like my everyday spending. Then I have one credit card that I would use it for bigger purchases. Like if I want to take out like maybe a laptop for £2,000, but I don't have all the money to pay it back, I could just pay little. And then I have the third one, which is the biggest, that I only use it exceptionally for holidays. So like when I'm planning on travel and we're doing big travel, because my parents love to travel a lot on their expensive trips.
Now, with that being said, do you have the actual cash to pay it off or not?
I don't understand the question.
So when you say you pay it with your credit card, do you have like funds in your like current account to pay it off as soon as you pay for it or not?
Very often I do, even though I still have lots left and I still have my job to pay. This is actually a tough question. If you're talking about all the cash, I may not have all the cash, but I know I have my job and I will have enough money to pay it back time to time.
Right, okay, so you do it that way.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't really fall, I really fall on more of the Dave Ramsey school of thought. So if I don't have money to pay for something, then I can't afford it, so I can't go. And I don't have a credit card out for just like having the ability, because for me, it's all about control.
Yes.
The financial side is, again, the key thing is for me is discipline and control. So I don't just have all these like credit cards out. I use credit, if I were to use a credit card, I would have it for like when you say for holidays, great. I will use it for a holiday because like I tell everyone that I work with, hey, with the credit card, you're insured and it's not your money. And so if anything happens with like the, whatever, the plane or whatever the case may be, the union with the credit card will have your back because that is their money. So they'll get it back on your behalf. So 100%. When you use it in that way, yeah, cool. Or if you're trying to, if like, for example, your everyday spending, you literally use that card for everyday spending or monthly spending for food shopping or whatever, but you have the cash to pay it off as soon as, just so you can get the reward points. I can understand that too. Yeah. But for me, when someone does it where they don't have the money, unless it's really dire emergencies, and that it really depends on what type of person you are. I really advise it, because nowadays, especially how most modern people act and behave with their finances, they're so quick to just spend whatever they can get their hands on, and they don't really pay it back, or they struggle with that kind of stuff, and they just don't have the good habits. So that's why it's better not to have a credit card at all. Have the cash. So okay, I actually have this money to pay for it, and if I don't, well, I just can't afford it, and you just gotta say no, I just can't afford it. Yeah, 100%. But like again, this is where budgeting and stuff comes in, because obviously, let's say like you gave that example of your brother, people are saying like you're not spending enough time with him. Then have a budget, like 10% of your income a month, or something like that, or 5%. Use that money to be like, okay, bro, we got like 50 quid to use for this month. What are we going to do? What are we going to do to hang out? Or is there anything you want? Yeah. But not to feel pressured and to be overspending and like almost feeling like you got to get a credit card just to sustain this living of, I got to support my brother in that way, because that's a lot on you, Yeah, it is. Yeah, so that's how I would do it. Yeah. But everyone's a bit different, and everyone doesn't really have that knowledge, but it's up to you. And that kind of puts me in a financial difficulty right now, where I'm like kind of wondering, will I have enough money? Because the thing is, the job that I have, it's permanent right now. I just got in permanent, but before that, I wasn't sure if it's gonna be permanent or not. And is it full time? Sorry.
Yeah, it's full time, and it's permanent as well. Before it was like a probation, like it was partially employed, so it's like a flexible thing. So I make how much I work for. So if I work for 32 hours alone, that's how much I'm making. But now I'm earning a fixed salary, which gives me the confidence now to pay back all my debts right now. So I'm not really worried much about it. But I learned my lesson the hard way. My next step is to like try to minimize your the amount how much you spend, and try to keep it below how much you spend. I mean, how much you earn down to how much you spend out. Because it's really bad to just go over, and I know what is it like going over, and it's just had me to my back. Like, you lose all your freedom. That's the next thing, because you don't spend money, you don't spend time treating yourself and all of those things. And sometimes I just feel let down and all of that, because people see it, that why you treating why you treating other people good, why you putting other people on pedestal and don't put yourself on pedestal. It's funny when last I buy my clothes and stuff like that. It's really hard to tell now, because I had to put a lot of responsibility. But yeah, that's how life works. It's not always at the best, but sometimes you're gonna be at your lowest to understand what is it like. That's how it plays, like a roller coaster.
Okay, yeah. I respect it. Cool.
Some couple of great tips are coming on now in your way in Green Albee Freedom Academy really soon. Just 5 minutes and we'll be back, and for the closure, we're just gonna give you some great tips.
Nice.
I'll see you in a bit.
See ya.
Hey guys, we're back, and boy, that was a really long break, I would say. Yeah, we had some great chats in and out, but yeah. We're just back now, and this time we're gonna provide some of the greatest tip ever. Probably not being heard by someone else, maybe just by us. Yeah. So we're just gonna provide you some of the greatest tips, and first of all, coming out from the guests as well, really important. Tyreke, what is the best tips that you can provide for those who are struggling financially in any areas?
Ooh, yeah, this is a hard one, because like I'm so used to working with people, so I make it really specific to them. But in general, I would have to say, first of all, most people don't have a starting emergency fund. So I would kind of list off the principles of Dave Ramsey, like get a starter emergency fund, meaning save up £1,000 for just general emergencies. I think that's such a good start. Work hard to get that. Second, save up your 3 to 6 months of expenses, making sure you look at every single thing that you pay for, and seeing how much that will cost in a month, all your expenses, and then times that by 3 and then times it by 6, and work towards a goal, ideally to reach 6 months. So if anything happens, like if you get fired, or if you decide to travel, or if you decide to move on to a different career and like you don't have a job, you've got some money to play with. You've got like some time to really focus on getting another job, or to experience what you want to experience. So I think that's really important. Do your best to pay off all your debts. I think that's another
100%,
really important. Having the freedom to do what you need to do and not feel like you owe anyone any money is amazing. So pay off all debts, not just like credit cards, but even just like friends' debts or family debts, whatever the case may be. Just pay it off. It just builds a better, relationship with people too, especially when you pay.
As well as credit score as well, really important.
Exactly. Another thing is, this is more like habitual stuff that you can use, but like, for example, each month, save 10% away or 20%, as much as you possibly can, really, but between 10 to 20% into an account to saving or investment account. Learn how to invest. And when I say invest, do things that are automated, make your life easier. If you're not into like stocks and shares and doing it yourself, go to a bank and get it sorted through them, make it automated. So go through like NatWest, Hargreaves Lansdown or something along those lines. Get an automated one and just assess your risk. Another key thing is like building up risk. So before I was actually quite risk aversive, so I didn't really like too much risk with anything. But slowly, with anything, start off with small risks, and then build your way up, willing to take on bigger risks. Even start off a budget or a percentage of money for when you want to do bigger risks, so you can see how it pans out and not feel like any burdens if you lose that money. And you'll have all to gain if you get it. Another thing I would say actually was really good and really useful, similar to what you were hitting on the previous points about the capacity of money and all the kind of things you were mentioning before, and how you feel about putting people on pedestals and making sure you're looking after yourself. Have some money for yourself, you know. Might be 5%, might be 10%, but have some money each month that you can use to hang out with friends, treat yourself, do something you really enjoy doing, and that could be whatever hobby it is, ideally healthy ones, but do all these things to really enjoy life. You know, you don't want to be working all this time and effort and money on things you don't enjoy and have to do. You know, sometimes it's good just to do some luxurious things to treat yourself, and that's really important. And someone really told me this funny saying, which I always stick to, several sayings, but like the first one is, how you do one thing is how you do all things. So your money is a reflection of who you are in most senses. So look how you're spending your money. It shows like what your interests are, and then see, are those interests healthy or not, or are they benefit you in a long-term way. Another thing that someone told me which was really good was, when you have a bad day, spend a little money to pick yourself back up. But if you're having a good day, don't spend any money. 100%,
yeah.
Because you don't need it. You're just having a good day. Yeah, you don't need it. You know. So stuff like that, because usually people do the opposite, where it's like when you have a good day, they spend quite a bit of money. When they have a bad day, they spend even more money. So it's rare not to do that. So much tips I can give. Another one I would say, which is really good, is always be willing to invest in others. So even though you have to build yourself up to this point, but always have a pool of money once you achieve like all your emergencies, when you're settled, when you're comfortable, when you're ready with your finances. Always set up a piece of money ready for if anyone needs help or in need, you know, because you don't know how that could change someone's life dramatically. And it could be a small thing, could be a big thing. I also like what you do, like treat people once a month. That's another good thing to do. I do that often, where each month I'll hang out with like key family members and certain friends, and we'll hang out, and it's not something major. It might just go to a movie, might just be hang out, have a drink or something like that. But it's something we do just to make it a social thing, so we can interact and like get to know each other a bit more.
Keep the networking going, that's really important.
Exactly, you know. And even build yourself up, start buying gifts, giving out to people, helping people out, because again, it's good when it's this hierarchy of like this balance of rich and poor, you know. It's, when you have a certain amount of money, it's good to start giving, donating, helping the people around you, because even though you might not see it, a lot of the time the money that you donate or give to other people or gifts does go a long way for them. And those small changes make big changes in the future, so a lot of that is really important. So that's for me. That's a couple of tips I've just thrown out there what I can think of. But what would you say? Got anything?
I have one tip, and this is a statement that I never hear before at all, but there is a big difference with someone who's being rich and someone who's being poor. We can view two people who both have £1 million, and I think I've said this briefly earlier in the first. Okay. There's two people that have £1 million. Yeah. And 99.9% of us would look at it and say, oh, the two of them are rich because they both have £1 million. Well, the thing is, there's a difference between being rich and being poor, because the person that have £1 million could also be poor as well. And the person that have £1 million could not be neither rich or neither poor, but like in the middle. Well, I could just make a statement there, the difference. So when someone is rich, it means how intelligent they are into managing their money. If they can manage it well, if they can sustain it well, and keep it going without have to be empty pocket or something, spend the money on something that is wise for yourself and for others as well. I would say that's the most important bit for a person who's rich and wealthy. While a person that could have person B that have £1 million could use all that money and gamble it, and then they lose all that money. Would you still look at that person and said he's rich? It's like he became rich, and then he lose that money, and then he's in a very, very difficult part where it's gonna be a bit difficult to even pick up himself. And I was like, yeah, it hurts to see somebody struggling from being rich and then be down. But at the end of the day, it's not about how many money you have is what describes what rich or what poor you have. It's about what is here and what is here, of what defines rich. It's like what Bob Marley said. It takes me off to what Bob Marley said back then. He said something about, we don't look at rich based on how much money they have in the bank account. They look at the rich and how happy their life is, how healthy their decision is in their life. That's what Bob Marley once said. He said it before.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And that's what your money's supposed to be there for. It's supposed to enrich your life and others around you. If you're just hoarding it all for yourself, that's no fun. You know, life is a game of community connections. Now, some people can decide that's not how they want to live their life, sure, but the reality is it's going to affect everyone and anyone that you're around anyway. So it is really important to have that, you know, good health, good money, you know, good life, really.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to aim for. So yeah, it's so important, so important. So, you know, use your wealth for good, or you can use it for bad. Up to you. But ideally,
it's your decision to do that, not us.
Yeah, but ideally, I'll push you to do good, like, or you know, help me out, you know, help us out. You know, donate. You know, do you get donations? You get donations here?
Donations in terms of what donations?
Well, like on YouTube or anything.
I don't really get donations yet.
Oh, not yet, but hey, start donating. That's what we want, right? Yeah. But that's the reality of life. So, no. Finances is really interesting because, again, I always say it reflects the person in many different ways. And you can tell even when people who don't care or say, I don't need to really worry about finances, but they really just don't care about it, or they just pay for their basic necessities. It does reflect on them. It's like, okay, like let's say if you even wanted to be friends with certain people that are like that, you got to be careful in what situations you put them in. Yeah. Like you mentioned before, you said something about like, you know, like a friend who... Sorry, it wasn't a friend, like for example, the situation out there where you're talking about like dating and whatever. If someone's not willing to participate, you know, pay something amount, if you're always the ones paying every time, like for everything, then that's not really... Yeah,
then that relationship is just one-sided instead of two-sided.
Exactly, yeah. And, you know, just even beyond a relationship or, you know, it could be just a regular friendship, you know, if you're the friend that keeps constantly paying for something and there's nothing reciprocated, and it doesn't have to be a financial reciprocation, but like even just an act of service or, you know, someone's time or effort, that's better than nothing. But if you don't even commit to that, then there's no point. Maybe it might be a good decision not to be friends at all. And like you're saying, like with the leeching of friends, it's better not to. So, So that's some of the great tips. And thanks a lot, Tyreke. It's really good. Before we get forward to the closure now, I would like to say that this video has been filmed in BABBASA. So that's one of the organizations that helps young people in unprecedented backgrounds, can help anyone, regardless of what area you are, build your professionalism, build your career, build your how you say it? Yeah, build your self-esteem.
Self-esteem,
build your confidence, you know, and build a good set of networks and connections around you. So
you can check on BABBASA at BABBASA.com, and that's their website. And that's really a great shout to BABBASA. They help us a lot. We both are trailblazer right now as we speak here, and we recently came from trip to Wales. Was really great.
TYF is what the organization I think was.
TYF, yes, TYF. Okay. That's one of a great organization. Yeah. Moving on to my next shout out as well. We got Tyreke Morgan. That's your first and last name.
Yeah, that's right.
Tyreke Morgan.
Yeah.
Can you please give the shout out to your Instagram, your socials?
Oh wow, it's my first time doing that. I usually just ignore it.
Yeah, but it's really good, billionaire.
Yeah, I need to, so you can add me on LinkedIn, Tyreke Morgan, you'll find me there. You can find my Monster Bash charity on Instagram, which is called Monster Bash 9. Yeah. So if you type that in, please help out with that. And also I got a drinks business called Thai Seasonal Sorrel. I got a website up, so just type that in. And we'll do a delivery. So we all got that kind of stuff.
That's really good,
Wow.
That's really good,
Sorry, I'm not used to when people ask me that because I'm usually the one like I don't have that. But now that I'm using it,
but it's really good to own what you have. It's really important. You need to take credit of your own business. It's really good to pull that.
It's true. I'm lazy with that, but I mean, thanks to you, I'm doing it much better now.
Yeah, you're doing it. Much better.
But please do help out with everything that we are doing. So in any way, if it's just even recommending us to other people, please do. We're looking for any type of help. So thank you. Thank you for having me, Laurel.
Thanks a lot, Tyreke. Great.
As always. Catching up, man.
And thank you all guys for watching Green Army Freedom Academy, and I'll see you on the next session. Toodles for now.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.